Welcome back to another episode of the Crimson Crossover Podcast. We are live from Coleman Coliseum, aka the hangar. Hence the outfits that we got going on. Alabama's got a huge matchup tomorrow night versus Tennessee. It's a top 15 matchup. I think the best way to start this is your favorite memory in Coleman. I think the historical context of like what Alabama has tomorrow night and kind of the success that Alabama's had from a home court advantage over the last 2 years. So let's hear it. What are some of your favorite memories from Coleman Coliseum over the lifetime of your Alabama fandom?
Yeah, for me, it was back when I was covering the team. It was when Herb Jones, of course, had the one-armed free throws against LSU. There was a lot. That was at the height of the Alabama LSU rivalry. You had Will Wade coming in here. You had Luke Ratliff sitting right over there with the FBI jacket. All of that tension, and it was a really important game that year. And then, of course, for Herb Jones, who had hurt his wrist, and I think he had already had it hurt for a couple of weeks at that point, was still playing with it, injured, came out there and hit those 2 free throws in the final couple of minutes to win the game. So I've heard Coleman louder, but as far as just like the passion of the fans in that moment is probably one of my best memories as of right now. We'll see. Maybe Saturday will change that, but that's mine.
Yeah, sat 35 years over in Section E with grandparents, parents, aunts and uncles coming down during elementary school. Elementary school would be over, but it'd be a school night. So would be bringing my backpack into the games and doing schoolwork before the games even started. Halftime, we would sneak Chick-fil-A in there too before they had metal detectors. So, maybe we should bring Chick-fil-A back in the stadium as well. But in true Alabama fashion, since we shoot the three so well, I could only narrow it down to 3 games. And it starts in 2000, one of Coach Godfrey's earlier years, but that's when he had Grizzard and Terrence Mead and Erwin Dudley and Kenny Walker as freshmen. Shea Cotton was on that team. And I remember that's probably the first time that I've been at a game where the student section was completely sold out 90 minutes before tip-off. Mm-hmm. It was a fantastic atmosphere. Grizzard hits the 2 threes. We end up winning, I think, 68-64. Fans actually did storm the court, but
we don't do that here.
We don't do that. But that was an incredible memory. Being there with my dad and us, how excited we got in that game. Another memory was my senior year here at Alabama in 2011. I actually got to officiate the manager's game. Which awesome. Actually became the assistant coach game between Alabama and Kentucky. So you had Tony Delk playing for Kentucky and Petway playing for Alabama. That's when Enos Cantor was also at Kentucky, not qualified, but he came and watched the game. So that was really cool just the night before to come run the court with those guys. And then we ended up getting that win too, Ben Evelyn getting the steal and knocking down some free throws under Coach Grant. And then the last one I'll mention is in the Coach Oates era, that first game for him against Auburn here. Auburn was undefeated. We knew what he was starting to build. There was starting to be some momentum with that team, and we just destroyed Auburn. 83-64. They didn't lead at any point during the game. That was an electric atmosphere, completely sold out again. If I had to give you a top, and there's so many other games within that as well. But those would probably be the top 3 that I lean into as my favorite memories.
Honorable mention for me, Bruce Pearl spiking his headset saying joke to the Auburn radio crew. That's right over there. Yeah, honorable mention.
And, we're talking about Coleman and just kind of the history. This is the first time that Tennessee has been in Tuscaloosa since December 2021.
Gosh.
Which is kind of absurd to think about because I feel like I think Nate Oates is 3-3 versus Tennessee. But this matchup tomorrow has an opportunity for Alabama to be, I think, one of the biggest regular season matchups that Alabama's had at least in the last 20 years, in my personal opinion. And then on top of that, if you can't see behind us, obviously College Game Day is setting up. It's the first time that College Game Day has been to Tuscaloosa for basketball, which is just another massive historical type of event for Alabama. And it kind of shows you the growth that Nate Oates has brought to this program and brought to the fandom of, Alabama fans. Because realistically, like, we started Crimson Crossover 4 or 5 years ago, and it was just because we wanted fans to be able to have the type of content and things like that for basketball. And now, I mean, look, we're sitting here in Coleman, have an opportunity to, do some special things with Crimson Crossover. But talking specifically going into the matchup tomorrow, Charles, I think you did some research. So what do you have for us for Tennessee?
Yeah, it's interesting that, with this game, it's kind of fitting that it's Tennessee as well, because when I think about this program really taking the next step, that game during the COVID season at Tennessee that we won 71-63, had a great second half, hit a bunch of threes. We got up double digits, and I'm sure y'all are just like me. We'd seen so many times where we've been up double digits against good teams only for that lead to evaporate and eventually lose the game. But I think the closest Tennessee got was 6, and you really felt from that point forward the rest of the year like that was a team that was going to do something very special, and then ended up beating Tennessee again in the semifinals of the SEC tournament on that way to winning the first SEC tournament for Alabama basketball in about 30 years. You're right. It's probably been about 2 decades since the Alabama-Florida game in 2002, where Petway hit the layup, that you've had a game of this significance here in Coleman Coliseum. You mentioned College Game Day being here. I think it's also significant, that they're here in March. It's the first day of March. This isn't like a January game or a February game. Yeah. Just the significance of what, this game is, the time of year it is as well. Is just something that we're all enjoying as Alabama basketball fans, and really appreciative, not only to Coach Oates, but this year's team and the teams before that as well, as far as the work and effort that they put into getting Alabama basketball to this point. Now, as far as the Tennessee game, we played them earlier this year. They took it to us pretty well in Thompson Bowling Arena. It all starts for them with Dalton Connect, who had a phenomenal game against Auburn during the midweek. He had 39 points. I think he scored, 21 or 25 in the last several minutes of that game, really to propel Tennessee. But when I think of Tennessee, it's the defense. They're 4th in KenPom in defense. They've actually got an offense that can run with that defense too now. They're 18th in the KenPom rankings as it relates to offense. They're playing at a pretty fast tempo than I think what they're accustomed to at 65 in KenPom rankings. So I'm interested to see how much they're going to get out and run with us as well. I think guys like Zakai Ziegler and Santiago Vescovi are kind of household names. They feel like they've been in the SEC the same amount of years that Riley Norris was in the SEC.
So about 12.
Yeah, so about 12. They're not only guys who have been through it, that are going to take care of the ball, but they're also going to take the ball from you as well. So turnovers are going to be crucial. We've talked about, just as far as, looking back at Alabama games where they've struggled, taking care of the ball. Alabama 22 turnovers in that first game. Tennessee only had 7. 15 of them were live ball turnovers through steals. They won the points off turnovers 23-4. So taking care of the ball is going to be very, very important. The guy that I'm really circled in as far as, where Tennessee, in the games that they've struggled, they haven't gotten a great performance from Adu. He's been in foul trouble. He's only played about 20 minutes per game. He has not gotten to double digits in scoring in the games against Mississippi State, South Carolina, and Texas A&M. Dalton Connect has still scored 20-plus points in those games. Mm-hmm. So, yes, you want to slow him down as much as you can, but as long as you don't have guys like Adu and Ziegler and Vescovi and Gainey and Meshack, and, they are deep. They got a good team. We've got to play good team defense, and that's not just to let Dalton Connect get his shots, but how much you can limit his supporting cast, I think, is going to be huge tomorrow night. And from an offensive standpoint, how much can we put Adu in difficult spots in pick and roll switches and things like that, and get our crafty guards like Sears and Estrada driving to the basket and pick up fouls on him? I'm really encouraged with the play that Nick Pringle has had recently. I feel like he could be very effective against Adu as well, not only on the offensive side or but the defensive side too, because he's playing with so much effort. But there's a reason why Tennessee's number 4 in the country. There's a reason why they're being discussed as a potential number 1 seed. There's a reason why, even though we've been leading the SEC for most of the year, that people continue to look at Tennessee as the team in the SEC. So it's going to be a phenomenal game. I expect it to be very close. I'd love if we could run away with it, but I think it'll be it will definitely be high scoring. If you're looking, as we continue to talk about our improvement on the defensive side, we're still going to give up points, not because we're a bad defensive team. I think it's because Tennessee's a really good offensive team as well. So, we just got to bring the energy, and not just we as the team. Like, we as the fans need to be bringing the energy throughout the night and really help this team for all 40 minutes.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that for this Alabama team, I'm pretty sure we changed the starting lineup since the last time that we played Tennessee.
Yeah.
I think we started with Gee, right?
Yeah, and that goes to one of the points that I made on the space a couple of days ago. This is a very different Tennessee team than the last time these two teams faced, but this is just as equally a very different Alabama team. When Alabama and Tennessee played last time, Alabama was still finding their groove. They were still in a way kind of reeling from that skid during the non-conference. They still hadn't had everything nailed down yet. And even today, this is Alabama is still kind of trying to figure itself out right now while Trelly is still on the sidelines hurt, which hopefully, we might see him back this weekend. We're still not 100% sure about that yet. But if he can come back, that will really add to the depth of this team. But I remember mentioning on the space the other night too, a big key factor last time were turnovers. Alabama having 22, and I'm pretty sure Tennessee converted those to 23 points if memory serves correct. Alabama hasn't aside from the Kentucky game, Alabama really hasn't been turning over the ball really bad at all in the past several weeks. It's particularly here inside the arena that we're at right now. So if they're able to continue that momentum and able to limit that, the margin of victory for Tennessee was 20 points last time. 23 of those came off of turnovers. So if Alabama is able to force Tennessee to turn the ball over and take advantage of that, on top of being able to limit how many balls that they give away, I really like Alabama's chances in this game. I do think, like Charles said, I do think it's going to be close, but really you can kind of flip a coin just because both of these teams, they have similar strengths, they have similar weaknesses. They really stack up really well. I do give the edge to Tennessee as far as depth goes right now. I know, Charles, you touched on that, but overall, this is going to be there's a reason why game day's here. There's a reason why we're here. There's a reason you drove however many hours it is for you to get here. It's because this not just, I know you said it's the regular game of the season for Alabama. This is a top 5 regular season game in college basketball this year. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, I did drive 7 hours last night, but I don't think I would have. Luckily, my wife told me I didn't have to go to Denver this weekend, so I could make it down to. So shout out to Sam.
Denver, Tuscaloosa, very comparable.
Yeah,
right there.
Yeah.
Hey, we hope she has a great time in Denver, and we hope our Sam Walters has a great time tomorrow.
Exactly.
Oof, that's
exactly.
The truth.
Well, luckily she won't be in the house.
Okay.
And for those of you who haven't been keeping up, Sam has been leaving the house at some point during the game, at like the Ole Miss game, on Wednesday. She left the house at halftime or right before halftime, and we ended up winning by 15. And she literally sat out in the car as the game was ending to make sure that we won, and then walked. Literally, the moment that the clock hit 0, she walked in. I said, "Have you been sitting out in the car?" And she said, "Yeah, I was waiting until the game ended." So
what you're telling me is tomorrow night you're just going to lock her out in general, right? If y'all
she's not welcome back at the house. I think at least till the end of March.
Let me know how that goes.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this matchup is for Alabama. I think this is a very difficult matchup. I think Tennessee poses a lot of problems for this Crimson Tide team, and I think that for Alabama to be successful, they need to not allow Tennessee's physicality to overtake the game like it did in TBA the first time that they played. And that's been a kind of an issue for Alabama going up against a Rick Barnes Tennessee team under Nate Oates. Is at times their physicality has been an issue for Alabama. And I don't like to say it comes down to the refs, but depending on how the refs call the game, it really does make an impact. Not saying that it's the reason why teams are going to win or lose. It's whether or not you can play through either officiated games that are really tight or allow, officiated games that are not being called at all to play through that type of physicality. So I think for Alabama, I think it's just important to stay in your lane, stay in the minds. Don't let the emotion of what this is, what we're doing, not we specifically, but like what College Game Day is doing, what the fans are, the type of energy affect you going into this game. Because if you get too emotional in this game, it could be devastating for your chances to win.
And I'll take that a step further. Not only that, but also don't react to the energy of the other team. You know, we saw just the Auburn game just a couple of weeks ago. Janai Broom was having a terrible first half, and then what happens? I believe that was Wagi that got in his face. That kind of mouth Pringle got in his face and mouth off, and guess what happened? I think he went from having 0 points. I think it was like 13 or 16 before halftime, and Janai Broom just took control of the rest of that game. So not only, you know, don't react to the energy from external factors, but on the court, don't react to that as well, because you never know when one word that you might say might start a run for the other opponent.
And what I do like for us, yes, the game times are much different. As far as this game tomorrow night will be at 7, and the game against A&M was at 11. But you think about all the fanfare that was going into that A&M game, the new jerseys, with the Elite Eight team coming back as well. Talked about it several times about the maturity on this team, and there are times where we have immature moments, going back to the Pringle situation with Broom. There's probably been several others as where we take an ill-advised shot or just make a really, not smart foul, just running into somebody or putting our hands on them. But I feel like this team has been a very mature team as far as, going back to the Florida game, the last game here. We didn't force threes in the second half when we knew we could get to the basket. Being down double digits at Ole Miss in a game that they really needed. And we came into it talking about, how much better the defense had been in practice. And then you come out and give up 42 points to Ole Miss. Georgia game comes to mind as well. This team, they don't get too high. They don't get too low. They stay the course. And tomorrow night, it is going to be very important to stay the course. I think that's something too, just talking about the history of this program and what Nate Oates has built. I can watch an Alabama basketball game and know that we're down 10 and still believe that we can come back and win. Yeah. Not that it's going to be, we're going to come back and make it a 2 or 3 point game, or we might even get the lead, but we're going to run out of gas and not be able to hold on to it. Or on the reverse side of that, being up 10 or 15 and actually know, hey, we're about to extend the lead. We're not going to give this back. Mm-hmm. And I think not only the confidence in the team, but the confidence in the crowd. I mean, I remember early on in Coach Oates' era and going back to Coach Johnson and Coach Grant, there was a nervous energy around here anytime that league got to double digits. I don't feel that anymore in here. I feel like everybody recognizes, when that other team calls a timeout, like it's winning time, and it's time to put the pedal to the metal and win the game right then and there with some defensive stops, or continuing to get out and run on the offensive side.
And it's things like that are immeasurable, that you don't really notice, but are signs of the culture and the program changing. That's a perfect example of, 5-6 years ago before Oates got here, you never would have gotten that reaction or that intensity from the crowd. And now that the crowd is able to recognize that, that's kind of why we're here at Crimson Crossovers, to educate fans and to help fans get into basketball. And that's a great example.
There will be no Price is Right music tomorrow night telling fans to come down, which is probably one of the low points of Alabama basketball. I feel like when I got here in the early 2000s, or excuse me, the late 2000s, and that was for SEC games, where you'd get through the first 5 minutes, they'd turn the music on. Tony Giles would tell people from up top to come down, because there's only 2,000 to 3,000 people here for a conference game.
Yeah.
Not worried about that anymore.
Mm-mm.
No, and speaking about fans, I think it's important to let people know that, like you said, don't come to the game right at tip-off. Mm-hmm. Like, first of all, I'll say this, parking tomorrow is going to be terrible. Or it's going to be awful. So expect that. But additionally, like, be here, be ready to be loud 15, 20 minutes before the game. I think it's crucial for the players to see that, like, okay, it's winning, like you said, it's winning time, and to have the type of energy, and like there's times in basketball where you can come into a stadium and you feel the energy and you feel like the fans are, and Nate has said it. There has been times where the fans of Coleman have willed the team to victory. Yeah. It's happened a few times this year. And that's the type of mentality that needs to be brought tomorrow. It needs to be loud. You need to be, on your feet, cheering, and just, it's a whiteout, so obviously wear white. And yeah, wear white. Danny, come in here. So obviously J&J is our sponsor, and so we got Danny Stu right here, noted fan or noted friend of the pod. He's got the game day shirt on. So this is at J&J. It's a limited edition one, but if you don't have white, go into the game tomorrow. Like, go to J&J. Pick this up. I mean, it's a limited edition, once in a lifetime type of thing. Not game day coming to Tuscaloosa, but game day coming to Tuscaloosa for the first time for basketball.
Yeah.
So do that. I think they have a deal right now. If you spend $75 in the store, you get that shirt for free. So
load up on white. Then,
yeah,
right. And I think we want to try to reward people that are willing to get here and be in their seat 15, 20 minutes before the game and be ready to go. So I think we're working on a tweet right now from the Crimson Crossover account. But we want y'all to quote tweet it, reply to it, share a picture of you in your seat with the hashtag here in the hangar, and we'll put you in a little giveaway here. But again, we want you to be here. We want you to be loud. And I'm reminded of last year's team against Florida, against Georgia. I mean, those games were basically over in the first 5 minutes because of how we hit threes and they just couldn't keep up with it. So I am not expecting that tomorrow night.
But wouldn't it be nice?
Wouldn't it be nice? And, within conference play, if you take all of our scores in the first half, we're only beating teams by a total of 3 points, not an average, a total of 3 points. We get our leads in the second half. How great would it be to be playing with a large lead or any type of lead of substance in the first half and then go do it again in the second half as well? So you're definitely part of this game tomorrow. Be here, be loud, and let's quiet Rocky Top.
Yeah. Do we got anything else?
No, I'm good.
I think that's a quiet Rocky Top. That's a good one.
I'm going to go find a brick wall so I can run through.
Yeah, that was awesome. Well, guys, just so you guys know, for as far as schedules, we're not doing a space tomorrow. Obviously, we're here, but we'll be back on Tuesday with Chris Stewart, and we'll have a post-game space following the Florida game on Tuesday. But other than that, I think we're good to go, and roll Tide.
Roll Tide.